right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome all. My name is Azaria Workman, and I am the Vice President of NAMIC Virginia. And by day, my career is HR Manager at Cox Communication. I want to welcome you all to our event, which is entitled Be Kind to Your Mind, Shining the Light on Mental Wellness. And so we're going to talk about some mental health topics here today. I'm glad you all decided to join us. So I want you to know that during our discussion, we will be doing some raffles. So we hope that you stay on with us throughout the whole meeting so that your name can be put in the hat to win some fabulous prizes. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick us off with our panelists. And I'm gonna start with the lovely Catherine Falk, who is the Vice President and Market Leader of Cox Communication in Northern Virginia. Welcome, Catherine. In her role, she is responsible for leading employees in the day-to-day operations. And she joined Cox back in 2002. Before joining Cox, she was the president of the Virginia Cable Telecommunication Association, which if you're in the telecom industry, we all know them as the VCTA. Catherine is a member of the Board of Trustees. She just recently was honored in the Northern Virginia Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Catherine. Catherine has been honored by the Washington Business Journal for Women Who Mean Business Award in 2021. She's been in the Virginia Business Magazine. She's just fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. She also is part of the Fairfax County Public Schools, where she graduated from Randolph-Macon Women's College. So Catherine has a lot of fabulous things going on. I can't wait to hear her speak today. So welcome, Catherine. Our next panelist is Sharika Mitchell. She is a qualified intelligence disabled professional. She is employed by, now don't get me wrong, I haven't said this name since I've been in this area. Is it Rappahannock? Is that my right? I'm a little off. Okay, sorry about that. Rappahannock. Okay. Okay, well, she's on the community board and she's been serving there for 12 years. She's been managing now for 6 years. Services individuals diagnosed with mental health and intelligence. She started her own resource platform in April of 2021 after dealing with depression. So I can't wait to hear your story. I can't wait for you to share with us what your role is. And she was going through a divorce at that time. And at the same time, she was dealing with a 4-year-old who had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So she has the story to tell us. Then we're going to move on to our next panelist, who is Zadia. And I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Is it Hadi? Okay. Okay. She is a native of Hampton Roads, has been in the mental health profession and substance abuse for over 10 years. She's also involved in a community counselor, life coach, a director of an outpatient facility. She's a graduated from Norfolk State University, where she graduated in psychology. She's been increasing home life and keeping the family of stable units. So she works with a lot of individuals, adults with mental issues. So can't wait to hear what she has to share with us. Her motto is, what is for you will always be for you. And to jump when wanting to make the choices of basic interactions and others and assistance to make a difference in their lives. Then we have the fabulous Derek Williams, who is, he works for Cox Communications on our public affairs team. Derek will be going, he would actually be the moderator for today. So Derek, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let you take over for today.
Thank you, Azaria. Appreciate it. Thank you, panelists, guests, and all those who are attending today. As mentioned before, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So with that being said, we're thankful to have this discussion, and I'm excited to have this discussion with these panelists today. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in, okay? So my first question is open to all of our panelists today, so anyone can answer. Now, sources state that there are approximately 1 in 5 U.S. adults that experience a mental health illness each year. So that's like roughly 20% of the people in America. So with that being said, and this is to my panelists, what does mental wellness mean to you?
Hey, Derek, I'll start. I think it's acknowledging that now more than ever, we all face a lot of stress in our lives, coming out of the pandemic, trying to get back to some kind of new normal. We've all been through a lot. And it's really acknowledging that and having a more open discussion like we are today about what we can do to take care of ourselves so we don't get in dark places and take care of our families and our friends and our colleagues.
Totally agree. That's a wonderful interpretation of it. I mean, definitely, you can attest to that, especially with the situation we've dealt with the pandemic and throughout the pandemic and being in a new situation as a new normal. It's very stressful for anyone. So like you said, is being able to communicate and having these discussions are very important. Would any of our other panelists like to chime in on this?
I totally agree with her. It also controls your emotions, your psychological and your emotional well-being. I totally agree with Karen.
Great. Thank you, Shakrik. Appreciate it. Great, Catherine. Good message there. So I will jump to our second question, and this is open to all of you all on the panel today. And according to a recent survey that was conducted by the American Psychological Association, nearly 3 in 5 employees have reported negative impacts of work-related stress, including lack of interest, motivation, or energy, or lack of effort at work. Meanwhile, 36% of them reported a cognitive weariness, 32% of them reported emotional exhaustion, and an astounding 44% of them reported physical fatigue, which was a 38% increase since 2019. So with that being said, what are some of the signs of mental fatigue that you can point out and address today?
I think just being completely checked out, just not interested in doing the things that you'd be interested in doing, not really wanting to interact in a certain manner, speaking like what we were saying with the workplace, just not even wanting to go to work or going to work and not wanting to meet certain deadlines. You might be given a deadline for something and you're just like, whatever. And don't, it's kind of like at this point, like if it gets done, it gets done. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I think with the pandemic, it kind of has increased a lot of people just not wanting to go to work, not wanting to go back to work, being that a lot of us were sent home and we started working from home. So now we're realizing like, oh, our jobs really can be done at home. Like now it's like, why do we have to go into the office kind of thing? So yeah, that's pretty much.
No, yeah, you said it clearly, definitely not wanting to be somewhere where you have to be, that can be a struggle in itself. And it's like mentally checking out, like just not even wanting to be there, not caring what's going on, not, being aware or alert. Those are all signs, of somebody who's maybe mentally fatigued. And, just thinking about what you said, what about like the work-life balance? How important would that be as well, as far as for anyone who's in the workforce?
It's very important. Like I tell my staff all the time, like, don't do work at home. Like once you leave the job, that should be it. Like, I get it. Like, patients might call, something might be going on. I answer the phone if it's an emergency, but if it's not a dying emergency, leave work at work. Like, don't take it home. Don't do it at home. Learn how to disconnect. And sometimes it's hard because we get passionate about what we do. We care about, the clients and the patients that we work with. But if you're not good for yourself, you can't be good for anybody else.
100%. If you're not good for yourself, you can't be good for anyone else. Anybody else like to chime in on that as well?
Yeah, Derek, and I think, you brought up a great question about the signs. And this is one of the biggest challenges of the pandemic and even this semi-virtual place we're in, is that not seeing people eye to eye in person, we haven't been able to pick up on those cues that we used to when we were in person all the time. So as leaders and teammates, we've got to try harder to pick up on those cues. And that's why it's so great to see people in person again, because you can really check in with them. You notice their body posture, if they're looking you in the eye, if they're smiling, and you see that in more than just a snippet in a box on Zoom. So I think that's where these person-to-person, in-person, connections are so much more important.
100%, Catherine. I totally agree. Sharika, do you
Yep.
add anything to that?
I do. And the work-life balance is really important to me because I'm a 24-hour on-call manager. So it can get hard and very stressful. I had to learn probably in the middle part of my managing career that I had to lose some things and again, leave them at work. As Zadia had mentioned, one of the things I had to manage was my email because I would be on vacation and I would continue to still check my email. And I had to delete it from the app of my front screen of my phone and just tell myself if it's an emergency, they will call you. You don't have to always have your email there. So detaching yourself from work while you're at home so you can spend time with your family and create that balance is very important. So I really agree with Azadia. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly.
Yes, all of you all presented great points. I mean, like you said, like when you check out of work or you're off for that day, if it's 5 o'clock, whether it's a different room or if it's the same room or wherever you work from, if you're working from home, especially those who work from home, like you said, check out, like shut the laptop down. If you have a work phone, shut it off, or not even shut it off, just put it down, charge it, and just detach. Spend time with your family, spend time with your loved ones, and kind of just get away from that environment, right?
And listen, I disconnect so much that I literally will wake up the next day and see that my staff have called me the night before or text me the night before. They say they're going to be late, say they're calling out. It's well past, like, oh, I'll be there at 7. I'm looking at the phone at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm just now seeing it. So that is how much I disconnect. Like, unless you call me with an emergency, I'm not responding.
Right, and it is needed though. It's needed. You got to have those boundaries. So I agree with all of you 100%.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
going to go
Derek,
ahead.
I saw this post today on LinkedIn that just really hit me in the gut. It said, the only people 20 years from now, the only people that are going to remember if you worked a lot of extra hours are your children.
Mm-hmm.
True, that's the effect that it can have. So definitely those that are listening today, please remember that, you are affecting those that are around you, your loved ones. So just make sure that you have that work-life balance and establish those boundaries so that you can have a good mental wellness all together. So that actually takes me to my next question. And this is for Catherine initially, and any of the other panelists that would like to jump in, they can as well. But Catherine, can you share, especially when it comes to overall wellness and the connection between physical health, right, and mental health? So there's a connection there between the two. Would you be able to share your thoughts on the importance of physical health in order to maintain a good mental health and overall well-being in itself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to share a story with you. So during the pandemic, so many of us had, really challenging times. And I was there right there with a lot of people in that I was taking care of my 2 parents. They lived about a mile away. And during the pandemic, we put them in a little bubble and they were fine. But then within a space of 3 months, both of them passed away. And, during the pandemic, it was also so hard because we couldn't connect with people. We couldn't even have a funeral. They weren't having funerals inside the church at that time. So it was just gut-wrenching. And so for me personally, I was dealing with grief and anxiety and, so many other different emotions. The good news was that I got a great intern from Norfolk State University, and we started collaborating on an article for the Business Voice magazine. And we decided to do it on wellness because that was something I was like, I got to do some research to heal myself, And she was very interested in mental wellness. And so as we started researching this, the 3 things that really stood out for me were the foundations, back to basics. So you got to take care of your sleep, your nutrition, and your exercise. And I think that we've overlooked those so much. But with your sleep, studies have found that poor quality sleep leads to anxiety and stress and mood concerns. And so a couple of tips from the Sleep Foundation are set a regular bedtime and maintain a consistent schedule. Before bedtime, use some relaxation techniques as a standard routine. Dim your lights, put away your electronic devices, turn on the do not disturb, block out any excess light, and then also exercise. You've got to get out and get some exercise. And the best kind of exercise for mental health is actually outdoor exercise. Taking a walk in nature is proven to have the greatest benefit to your anxiety and stress levels. It releases endorphins that make you just feel a lot better. And then nutrition, it is so easy when we get into a stressful situation to rely on caffeine. I was doing that. I was way over caffeinated. Many people rely on alcohol to calm them down, but then it causes other problems. And also on fast food and food that is not nutritious, because you can grab it fast, but it is not helping you. So in the spirit of back to basics, eat food that is good for your body. Put away the alcohol, put away the caffeine as much as you can, because those interfere with your sleep and then interfere with your well-being. So sleep, nutrition, exercise, I think are really important foundations to ensuring you've got a good mental health balance.
Thank you, Catherine. Did everybody hear that? Sleep. What are the three? What are the three again, Catherine?
Sleep, nutrition, and exercise.
Sleep, nutrition, and exercise. That's the key. Thank you, Catherine. Well said. And so I'm going to jump to the next question, and this is for Sharika. Many people are trained to say they're doing fine or they're okay, right? We're all trained to say, I'm fine. How you doing? I'm good. I'm doing fine. But you might not be. So how do you break down those barriers to really find out how someone is doing so that you can point them to the right direction for some resources that they might need?
Yeah, so I've learned through my course of struggles and depression, as was announced in the introduction. I went through a divorce after marrying somebody after high school, and then straight into maybe a couple months after divorce, finding out that my 4-year-old at the time was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And that was a very depressing time for me. During that time, I was closed off. I'm a very prideful and to myself type of person. And while studying the question that you asked, the answer that came to me is how you could break down that barrier is gaining that person's trust. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. And with that being said, it may take a couple of gentle tries. And I say gentle tries because we got to watch the approach that we, and how we come at that person that is going through something. We can't come at them hard or thinking that they should be in one state of mind and where we are when it takes time for some people to get to where they need to be. During that time, we have to learn how to show up for the person, regardless of their response. We always have to make ourselves available for the person, have compassion and some empathy for the person. We also have to continue to listen, which is a very big one. Sometimes people don't want to hear the other person's response. They just want you to listen to them. So always have an ear open. During that time, I had to learn how to trust. So we have to allow ourselves to be that trusted place and keep it confidential, whatever someone shares with us. And we have to keep the door open. And during that time of keeping your door open for that person that may need you, once you break down that barrier, we have to learn how to continue to spend the time with them so that trust can continue to be kept.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You mentioned a lot of points. You talked about time. You talked about patience. You talked about keeping that door open and not closing yourself off. But when you talked about time, it does make sense because you can't expect, everybody's timeline is different. Everybody deals with things differently. And just because somebody's timeline might be 2 months to get over grief, somebody else's timeline might be 2 years, or it might be 10 years. It might just take a longer time. So we just have to, like you said, give them time, keep the door open, be patient. And then that one of the things you said that was really, really insightful was listening, right? Listening is sometimes the best thing you can do is listen. Instead of just listening to respond, listen to hear. Listen to see, hear what they're going to say before responding and just listening to them. Even if you don't say anything, bending that ear and just allowing it to vent to you is all that they may want at that time. And that's okay. It's okay to do that. It's not a problem to do that at all. So thank you for that answer, Sharika. Really, really good. Really insightful. So I'm going to jump to the next question, and this is for Zadia. What are ways to overcome a stigma attached for men? So, I'm a male, of course. So for men like myself, or most men, we're, have a little bit of pride, and we don't want to feel vulnerable by showing that we're not okay. We see that as a form of weakness. So how do we get beyond, how do we overcome that? How do we get beyond that as men, or anybody, but particularly as men?
For men. I would say, first and foremost, it starts at home. It starts with, as parents, raising our sons to being okay with expressing their emotion, being okay to cry, being okay to just be who they are. I think a lot of times we tend to, especially in the African American community, our son falls. Oh, stop crying. You're not a little girl. Get up. Things like that. Like, stop being a young, and they hear that over and over and over again. That is starting to be instilled in their mind that I can't cry, I can't show emotion, I can't be vulnerable, I can't be those things. So then they grow up into teenagers and they start dating, and then they develop that same kind of mentality being adult men, that now they're getting into relationships. They don't know how to express their emotions. So then it goes from, anger to, then we're dealing with domestic violence, and we're dealing with men who, turn to alcohol and drugs and things of that nature. So I feel like, one, we need to start with the kids younger, and then the ones that are already here and kind of been instilled in a space where it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to promote, mental health for men. It's okay to encourage them to talk to someone. It's okay to say, you can cry. You can feel that way. That's why I think it's important that, especially dating men, that, I see a lot of times, especially on social media, see a lot of times where people are making comments like, oh, like smoking hookah, that's feminine, like things like that. Like, nothing allows for men to be men. Like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to express emotion. And then you get upset when you're dealing with somebody that you're like, oh, you don't show me no affection, because they don't know and they don't feel like it's okay. So I definitely feel that, the more safe space that we create, the more it's talked about. I will say, over the past couple of years, especially since the pandemic, there has been an increase in the discussion of men's mental health, and a lot of men coming out saying that they go to therapy and they're seeking help. So I think that is very encouraging to other men to want to, be okay with talking to someone.
Yes, 100%, Zadia. We got to be emotionally available. And like you said, it starts young, because a lot of times we're trained to be so mentally tough and, not to show emotion, not to cry, and be strong. And that's the reason why a lot of times we're not available emotionally when that time comes. We don't have those feelings, is because we're trained not to have those feelings. So with the conversation we're having today, which is a starting point, and a lot of conversations that have been happening since the pandemic, has allowed people to understand that, yes, you can cry as a man. Doesn't make you, less of a man to cry. Doesn't make you less of a man to show emotion. However, and actually, in a sense, a lot of companies are, having a lot of training on emotional intelligence, right? So that people can understand, and be sensitive to those emotions and be able to utilize those as far as when they're leading other people. So thank you for that, Zadia. Great insight on that. I'm going to jump to the next question, and this question is for Sharika. So Sharika, we live in a digital world now, as you know, now more than ever, which has limited our face-to-face social interactions. Of course, we've seen that during the pandemic. Can you share your thoughts on this topic?
Sure. Since the pandemic, since COVID, it afforded the people to be more creative, such as the doctors, such as the patients, where it afforded them to now go digital with instead of face to face. When people are not able to come into the office, now they can have Zoom meetings and have their counseling sessions. So it did switch up in that aspect. And I will say for myself, it afforded me to create a platform where I offer counselors or anybody that work in the mental health platform field to come on and pretty much promote mental health, or come on and have panel discussions for free. And it's free education for the people that need it out in the community, as well as people that have had trying times. They come on and they kind of go over their struggles to help other people out in the community. So it has changed the world a bit since COVID, whereas, people that just don't have the time to come into the office, now they can meet on Zoom like we're doing now.
100% agree. Like geography used to be an issue. Now it's not an issue. If you have internet, anywhere you have internet, you can have Zoom, you can have FaceTime, you can communicate, with your loved ones, friends, family members, or like you said, panels like this. So geography, should not be an issue anymore with the way things are designed. It helps us to be able to have that connectivity still in a sense. But it does limit the face-to-face, which, kind of can be a little bit of a difference. So can you
And I will, can I add to that? Yeah,
Yes, what I was going to say. Go ahead.
For example, such as people that just have stresses for being in the four walls. My husband, I'll use as an example. He is used to, we live in the Fredericksburg, Virginia area, but he traveled before COVID to Montgomery County, Maryland, to his government building where he could sit amongst his peers. And that was his decompression time. His decompression time, getting into the car and coming home before he reached home with his wife and his daughter that was waiting to just hug him and give him no space at all when he come through the door. But since COVID, now he has went totally 24/7 at home, and he hates it. he hates it, and I'm looking at him like, I wish I could just work from home. I don't want to be in the four walls of a job any longer. But it also made us more creative with how can we deal with his stresses, because as a man, as Zadia said, he is stressed out just sitting in his house, and I'm trying my hardest to understand what he's going through. But as a wife, I try to be more creative and like, you can take the car, you can go out for a ride, you can go to the gym, but it's still not the same as him being in the four walls. So we try our best to be more creative with helping him get past the stresses of sitting in the four wall. But it has changed. But it also afforded him the time where he sits during his lunch break to have counseling sessions with his counselor on Zoom.
Good. So, yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, you made some great points, because for me, I used to be a person who liked to go into work all the time. I didn't like the at-home atmosphere, but I've learned to adapt, and I'm actually starting to I like it a lot more than I did in the beginning, because I feel like I can get a lot more work done. There's less distractions, although of course there's always going to be distractions through chat or through virtual calls and things like that. But I think what happened for me, being somebody who works mainly at home, but sometimes hybrid, sometimes I have to travel, sometimes I don't. I think for me though, when you have like team builders and opportunities when you can get together, it makes it much more meaningful. You know what I mean? Because it's like you've been in, like you said, we've been in the house for years, a couple of years now. We've all been grounded. We're grounded for like 2 years. Then we started to get some leeway and to be able to get out there. And some spaces and some are still not to the point where they're going to be going back in. It may be where it's a new normal, where it's hybrid work mode, or it's it's as needed work in the office. But for me, I've seen a benefit in it. I've seen where when you do have team builders, you're more engaged and more excited when you do have those opportunities to meet in person. And then also when you have to meet with different people geographically, you cut out the drive time. And that's a benefit in itself, because think about how much you save on gas now with not having to drive to another side of town, or to go to your employer, or have to drive to another city to meet someone, where you can just do that virtually, and you can save that that drive time, which it can be a benefit in itself. But like you said, outlets are always necessary, because you need an outlet to be able to vent. So having that therapy and that one-on-one therapy can be helpful. And a lot of companies do offer those free services as well. And those services in which maybe you can highlight, or someone will highlight later on, as far as any free opportunities that people can have to utilize some of those services. But yeah, for me, I'm loving a hybrid life. My wife, she's a teacher, so the hybrid life's not for her. She got, if you ever did Zoom with 30 kids, it's not the best atmosphere. It's not the easiest transition for anybody to do. So at time during COVID for a little bit, she did work from home, but as they got back into the office, into the school, she's loving it, and she's enjoying what she does. So thank you for that insight, Sharika. That was really, really good. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next question, and this is going to be for Zadia. What are some of the ways, Zadia, families can incorporate wellness activities to create a positive home and family dynamic?
So it's kind of like a kind of question, because there's different forms, different types of families. There's families where there's a 2-parent household, 1-parent household, co-parenting, things like that. I think the most important thing is creating structure. Making kids, especially when you have younger children, make them feel like they're like involved and important, whether it's you get them to help you cook or get them to help you do laundry, or set out a set time where you guys get together and watch a movie or watch y'all's favorite show or something. For me, it's a little different because my kids range in different ages. So I try to find ways to set time aside to talk to my oldest that's almost 18. Then I got to set time to talk to my middle child who is going through that teenage phase that doesn't want to talk to anybody and wants to stay in her room kind of thing. So I got to, I'll be like, you want to go get some ice cream? She'd be like, no, you can go get it. And then I got to think of creative ways to get her out of the room. Sometimes it requires bribing, like, hey, I'll give you some money to go get some snacks if you come sit out here and have a conversation real quick. Whereas then I have a toddler where, it's just long as I pull out a truck and play with him or let him watch his cartoons, we're good. But I think just opening the doors of communication, making your children feel like it's okay to talk to you, to have conversations. I know with some of my, when I did in-home and I had kids who typically like act out, because the purpose of in-home is trying to help keep the children in the home and not them be removed from the home. So I would tell them, like, create like a mailbox. And so the mailbox will be at the parent's door, and it gives the child the opportunity to write down how they feel. They're allowed to express themselves in any way, so that can include them using cuss words, whatever it is they need to say. As long as they write it on the paper and they put it in the mailbox, they're not being reprimanded for it. They're not going to get in trouble for it. And that is their way of forming a communication of expressing how they feel and getting. Sorry about that. But can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. But that is their way of communicating and being able to express how they feel if they're not comfortable with having a verbal conversation. And that way they can figure out what's going on. So I think the biggest thing is creating an environment where everyone can communicate. Even if it's something where you plan once a month to go do an outing somewhere. Everything doesn't require to spend money or book a trip to go somewhere, things like that. You can pack some food and go to the park and have a picnic, or, there's different days where you can go to the zoo for a discounted rate and stuff like that. So I think just being able to create that just a safe environment to be able to really just communicate with each other.
Yeah, for sure, Zadia. Those are all great points. I like the one you said about bribery, because I have teenagers as well. I have 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. So they're one's, teenager, one's about to be a teenager. But like you said, they're in that stage where they want to go to their room. And, so like you said, make creative ways or find creative ways to get them out. So that's what I try to do. I try to find something that they would like to do. Even if, like you said, everything doesn't cost a lot of money. You may not have to spend a lot of money to do something that they like to do, but it could be something simple, and it could be even complex. But however you do it, just find a creative way to get them out, get them talking to you, get them communicating with you. And like you said, that helps for the family because you have to have your family time so you all can talk and discuss things and as a unit. And that's going to help, trickle down into the mental wellness and everybody can feel free expressing themselves and being connected. So I love those points you made, Zadia. Great points you made. Thank you for that. The next question I have actually is going to be for Catherine. And this is actually regarding last year. You actually, in an intern, I believe, contributed to the Business Voice magazine, I believe, and you talked about ways organizations can lead with wellness. Can you share your perspective on this for the audience? And I hope I said it right, the question right, but
yeah. So last year, my intern from Norfolk State, Anaya Blair Young, and I wrote an article for the Business Voice magazine on health and wellness, on wellness really, and mental health. And it started, because of the pandemic and all the stress that it put on people. So we did our research, and some of the tips that we came up with, besides the foundational back to basics ones, were take the time to identify your sources of stress, identify them, and then make a plan to address them. But actually put them down on a piece of paper. If it's, the hours that you're working, then talk to your boss about a different schedule. If it's something else, put those ideas down on paper to see what really are the things that are causing you stress. And then ask for what you need. If you need a different schedule, if you need help from your spouse, like I need my husband to take my daughter to soccer a couple nights a week so that I can finish up what I need to do at work. So you got to have those trade-offs, but identify your sources of stress, then make a plan to address them and seek support. You mentioned that a lot of companies like Cox were so fortunate that we have a robust employee assistance program. And in that we have free counseling. Many companies have that. There are also great resources in our communities, but you have to ask for help, whether that's a professional that you get counseling from, or a wise elder, neighbor or friend or family member, but ask for support. And then really, focus on some of those mental health resources like mindfulness and meditation, yoga classes, get your head into a different space. There's headspace, but take that time for the breathing techniques and the mindfulness techniques. They really can do a world of good. And then one last tip was have fun and get creative. We talked about cooking. Try a new recipe every week with your family. Take up painting or something like that. Sit down with a child and, maybe it's family night and everybody paints a superhero or draws a superhero. All kinds of fun things like that. Painting and drawing and those creative things like cooking, just put your brain in a different space and really help you de-stress.
yes, that's awesome. Yeah, those are all good points, Catherine. Thank you. Yeah, that's really good. And actually, for anybody who'd like to share, if there's any free resources that you would like to discuss, any of the panelists, or if you'd like to put it in the chat for people to go to that can, utilize, please feel free to do so. But yeah, those are really, really good points, Miss Catherine. I like the ones you stated as far as how you can adapt and how do you make mental wellness a priority, right? Rather than just a thing to do, it's a priority for you to be able to function well and be able to work well. You've got to have that good mental health. So great points, Catherine, definitely. So the next part of we're going to switch gears a little bit, just so you all know. We're going to go to a live question and answer session because we have questions from the audience. And of course, we're going to try to answer as many questions as we receive. Of course, in the event that we can't answer all the questions, we'll be sure to give our panelists those questions and have them funneled to them, and they'll respond back hopefully via email. So the first question I have is a live Q&A question for the audience, from the audience to our panelists. It's a few months ago. Stephen Twitch Boss took his own life. I don't know if you know Twitch. We've probably heard about it in the media, and many who followed him on social media were shocked because he was always smiling, right? He was smiling, dancing, seemed to be full of happiness and energy, and it seemed like he had a great career. So could you explain the high functioning depression that exists, and how can you help others or even ourselves when it happens? Anyone dare to chime in on that? Any of our panelists like to chime in on that? It's a deep question. Anybody heard about high functioning depression, or anybody can speak to that and figure out as far as what can we tell our audience as far as somebody who's functioning well? Seems like everything on the surface is perfect. Doesn't seem like there's any issue. But how do you address high functioning depression where somebody may, be able to function well, however, like Twitch, function well, but emotionally, internally, they're dealing with so much and it's hard to be seen. Can anybody speak to that piece?
I would just say that this is why it's so important to be have that human connection with people, because it's so easy to put on a mask if you are just on Zoom or on a Teams call and you're sitting at home all alone. I think that I was reading an article recently that loneliness is an epidemic in America and probably throughout the world, but really in America. We went home for the pandemic and there's so many people that have, stayed home, and loneliness has a huge impact on your health. So I just encourage everyone, it's not enough to just make a phone call. You got to see people in person. And I find for me that seeing people in person makes me feel better, not just them. So make the extra effort to see people in person. But Shakira and Zadia, those are the experts.
Sharika, Zadia, y'all want to chime in on this? I know y'all the experts here.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to somebody that's highly functioning, because I would say I can function sometimes in my dysfunction, we'll label it as such, and it's hidden very well to the world. And I would just say pay attention to the people that you have in your close circle, that you love, to their signs, to their body language. Because it sometimes can be seen, although they can hide it very well. But with some people, you can kind of see it. Pay attention to their patterns, although they're hiding it. And check in with them. Just check in with them and interact with them daily, and don't lose that connection.
Well said. Well said. Zadia, would you like to chime in on this? High functioning depression, somebody who you can't tell anything's going on with them because they hide it so well. A lot of us probably do that. A lot of us professionals, we're out here, you have to portray an image, you have to be, a professional image, you have to maintain that image, and you want to, but you might be dealing with a whole lot of the time. And you may not want to consider talking about it, but how do you, like Sharika mentioned, those closest to you, those in your circle, how do they find ways to get to you if you can't? How do they find you if you're lost? How do you find yourself if you're lost?
Well, I will say for me, I do experience that. So my close friends know that if they don't hear from me, if they don't get a text or they don't hear from me by like 8 a.m., something's wrong. If they notice that I'm not interacting like in a group chat or something like that, like they're blowing my phone up. I'm very quick to put my phone on do not disturb, and they will literally blow my phone up. Somebody's gonna be knocking at my door. Somebody's gonna be calling one of my kids. Tell your mama to pick up the phone, kind of thing. So I think the more that you know people, you'll notice, even if they still get up, go to work, still act normal, you still go out, still be social, things like that. You can, if you really know a person, you really can tell when something's off. For me, you'll notice it in my face. I might be, still doing stuff, but you'll notice, like, I can feel it when it's happening. Like my face just becomes real, like sunken, like just feel drained. But I really do like like you all said, staying in communication with people, like just calling, even if you don't talk every day, shoot a text. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? Just making sure people know that you're there.
Yes, well said, Zadia. No man and no woman is an island. You know, that's that saying. Nobody's an island. We all need somebody. So we have to just, make sure that we tap into those channels. Those that are closest to us, that know us personally. They see the signs, and we have to just make sure we recognize the signs, and we don't, I guess, we're not naive. Like we don't dismiss them. When we see it, we need to recognize, okay, yeah, I'm starting to feel a little drained. Maybe I need to check out, a little early today. Maybe I need to take a day off from work, right? And maybe concentrate on some mental health, getting outside, like you all talked about, going to the gym, or maybe I need to take a small trip to wherever it might be, whatever your happy place might be. I know one thing has been very helpful for a lot of our members and audiences, the midday Monday meditation that we have at NAMIC Virginia that Charlene hosts. It's been really, really insightful. But not only that, it's been very helpful because it's allowed me to get away from work, get away from, anything that I'm dealing with, and just to kind of focus for that time on those techniques and those breathing techniques and just, being able to step away from all of that and get into another place. So that's very, very important, as well. So I have another question from the audience that's been asked, actually. It says, if you have an employee who's raised mental health concerns due to a personal and work stressors, what should the workplace do to support them? So let's say we have someone we know, they've stated they've, had some issues and they're looking for help. Like, what ways do we, what can we do to support them? Like, do we point to some of the resources? Like, what are some of your takes on that?
I can answer that, Derek, because I deal with it sometimes. Me working at Rappahannock Area Community Service Board affords me the guidance to direct them, because we have psychologists, we have Sunshine Lady House, which is a crisis stabilization home. So I give them the listening ear, as I had said in one of my examples, hear them out, and then I offer the services that RACSB has to offer them. And if it's something that's more medical, then what a counselor could do, I kind of direct them to, Mary Washington Hospital if they need to be medically seen and evaluated. So that's how I go about in directing employees.
Well said, Sharika. Well said. Next question I have for you all, any of the panelists here, it's a two-part question. So the first part of the question is, what is the best time to talk about topic of mental health when it's dealing with suicide or mental health? And what are some of the ways children and adolescents what is the time to talk to them about that and talk about the stigma of mental health and stuff like that? So what's the best time to talk about the topic? And then when dealing with, especially with children and adolescents, teenagers especially, what's the good time to talk about suicide and mental health? So it's a two-part question there. Zadia, Zadia, you want to chime in?
Okay, so give me the first part of the question.
So basically the question in itself, and I can make it a one question, basically it's one question, but it's two parts to it. It's just basically talking about what is the best time to talk, or best age or time to talk about the topic of mental health, whether it's children, like what is a good time? We'll just break it down. What is a good time to actually talk to if you have children about mental health, about suicide? What do you think is a good time to start talking to them about that stuff?
Well, to be honest, there's no right time. So I do feel like starting early, because when kids go to school, they deal with bullying, they deal with the frustrations of, having to get work done, get assignments done, testing, things like that. So with the sense of that, you can teach them about coping skills, those are interventions that you provide to individuals with mental health, things that are going on. Now, when it comes to suicide, there really isn't a right time or a wrong time. Being someone that is trained for suicide interventions, that's just something you just discuss and you straight just ask, and you have to be very front and upfront with it. Do you want to commit suicide? It's not nothing you tiptoe or sugarcoat around asking a question. You just ask, and then you connect them to whatever resources that you need to connect them with to get them the help.
100%. That was the answer I was looking for. There is not a right time. It's just whenever you feel is necessary. Just to share a little story about my daughter. She's in 5th grade, you all. So a lot of times the children today, they say things, right? They say like, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. They may not mean it. So you have to be very careful because there's been a lot of things with school shootings and things like that. You got to be very mindful. So this one of my daughter's friends, they were friends at one point. I don't know what happened, but they stopped being friends. And the girl said she wanted to kill her. But she probably, we know she didn't mean it, but the guidance counselor had to get involved, right? Because we got to take these things seriously. So the guidance counselor got involved. The student was talked to. They were separated for, a little while, because you got to take these things serious, because mental health is a serious issue. And she's only in the 5th grade, you all. So I say all that to say, there's no right, you have to just know, your child, know who you're dealing with. And this, because like you said, it's introduced early at school. So, you don't want them too young where they don't understand, but you want it to a point where they can understand what it means, and you can talk to them and speak to them, and they can understand, okay, this is not okay to say, this is not right to say, and express those concerns at that time. So thank you for that, Zadi. Thank you for Sharika and Catherine for those actually answers to those questions there. I believe there's one more question that we have in the chat. And I think it alludes to what we talked about before, as far as for men, because of course, as men, we deal with a lot of stress. A lot of times we die a lot, sometimes a little earlier than the females, because we deal with a lot. We got a lot on our backs, right? So men spend a lot of energy trying to protect their families, friends, and as well as themselves. So what should vulnerability look like for men in this kind of space? And I think you highlighted some of that earlier, but can you speak to that? What does vulnerability like, and kind of speak a little bit more to that for us men out there that need that guidance? I think Zadi had already spoke to. So what about Sharika or Kat? I think Zadi, I think you had went in on that. So I don't know, Sharika or Catherine, can y'all speak to what can y'all encourage us men, as far as we're supposed to be protectors, supposed to be providers, supposed to be, the be all, and how to help us get better?
I know Zadia had went over a load of
Right.
answers on that, but it's basically just allowing them to feel their emotions without criticizing them. Because a man has human emotions just like a woman does. So my answer would be, it's allowing them to be men, allow them to feel the emotions, allow them to express the emotions, because it's better out than in. So that's the answer that I would give. It's allow them to be free, allow them to be who they are, and allow them to feel their emotions and express them.
Any last points to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times women, okay.
Go ahead, Zadia.
What I was going to say is a lot of times as women, we're so used to being independent and being strong that sometimes where we don't know how to allow a man to do that. So we tend to, sometimes knowing and sometimes not knowing, emasculate them. And that does not help it either. Because once you emasculate a man, it does not give them the confidence to want to lead. It does not give them the confidence to want to provide. It does not give them the confidence to want to express how they feel or, express their emotions or cry or anything like that. Like the only thing we're going to see is anger. We're not going to see the emotional, the crying side of it. So I think, it works hand in hand. Like us women have to learn, like, Sharika said, to allow men to be men. Don't emasculate, don't just be positive, be encouraging, be uplifting. Like, let them know that it's okay. Like men, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to talk to someone. Even if you don't feel comfortable talking to your significant other or your friends, there's plenty of therapists out here. Just Google, it's okay.
Yeah, and Derek, I was just going to add, like this panel is doing, you've got to normalize these conversations. It's okay to talk about mental health. So you've got to normalize it in your family and among your friend group by being a leader on having these conversations. And then, also with children, when they ask questions, don't sweep it under the carpet, answer them in an age appropriate way. My daughter is also a 5th grader, asked me about when Twitch killed himself. So I said, he was dealing with a lot of depression and sadness, and he didn't, get the help he needed. And that's why it's so important to get help. So even those small snippets, but have the conversations, normalize the topic, and then help people get the resources they need.
Yes, awesome, Catherine. Thank you for that. Thank you, Catherine. Zadia, Sharika, can y'all give them a round of applause in the chat? Do y'all have like a chat function in the round of applause? Please, they did an awesome job. Thank you for your time today and everything you've explained and mentioned. And of course, for those who missed it, this session is recorded. So if you all would like the recording, please reach out to me. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our president, Niall Somerville, with closing remarks.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay? Excellent. Hey, well, before we get there, I know we've been talking about a lot of great stuff, a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of applicable stuff. I know we're at close to time here. But before my closing remarks, I want to turn over to Veronica. I think she's ready with a few raffles. Is that correct, Veronica?
Hi, everyone. I am.
All right.
I have the wheel. Let me go ahead and share the screen so you guys can see who the.
So if you can, just give us 5 more minutes here. We'll wrap up, okay?
Can you guys see my screen? Did I share?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, the wheel of fun.
All right, here we go. All right, so our first winner is Tina. If you're on, Tina, I didn't have a last name on there, so you can kind of put your name in the chat for us. That would be great. If you're still on. Is Tina still on?
We'll catch up with her.
Yes, she's still on. Yep, Tina Holmes is her name. So
Okay.
It's actually my
All
own.
right.
She won.
Y'all had to share that. Sure.
Oh, so close, Lisa. It's Stephanie.
Sorry, Lisa.
Thought I was gonna stop on Lisa.
I thought so too.
I was so hopeful. Stephanie just stole it from me.
Maybe I'll share.
All right, so I will stop sharing my screen. We'll get with you guys on your raffle prizes.
Thank
All
you.
right.
But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Veronica, for facilitating that, and we'll get those prizes out to everyone. But hey, as we wrap up here, I just want to again thank the panelists, Zadia, Sharika, Catherine, for sharing your knowledge, your expertise. I would just encourage everyone on the call, reread their bios, and certainly reach out to them as professionals. If you want to partner with them on future events, take advantage of this networking, this connection with those individuals that were panelists. And again, thank you, Derek, for facilitating this session today. It's been great. But also want to thank our NAMIC programming chair, Takanya Hammond, for all her hard work, the team's hard work on programming, for putting this event together. This is something we really looked forward to, and it certainly came together here as a successful event. So a few things about NAMIC here as we move forward. So we've got a few things coming up. Don't forget about our NAMIC partnership with the Food Bank of Southeastern Virginia. That information is on our website. So if you'd like to give to that cause, please do so. Next Monday, we are going to do a midday meditation again. Next Monday on Memorial Day. So if you need to take a break from the grill or a break from your in-laws, whatever it might be, join us for 15 minutes between 12 and 12:15 Eastern. We are planning an in-person networking event for June the 8th, so more to come there. And then we got a few other things going on during the month of June with Juneteenth on June 17th, professional development plan discussion on July 27th. And then we got some other tech series coming out as well. So really heating up with some activities here for the summer and the back half of the year. Again, I want to encourage everyone to follow us on namicvirginia.com, get more information about our events, our mission, our values, what we're trying to do. But also too, as we wrap up here, seek out help. Many employers offer things like EAP, take full advantage of those services. And the biggest thing I heard today also too around normalizing the fact is sometimes if you're working out, you're working with a person in the drums, sometimes an instructor will tell you, if you're working out, whatever it might be, hey, release the grip, release the grip, release the grip. You'll have a little bit more freedom, be a little more easier for you to work out and get your workout done. So I would encourage you to do that here. Release the grip of the stigma around mental health, release the grip around not asking for help, release the grip around not normalizing these conversations and discussions. Get the help that you need. But along those same lines, let's not run to failure, right? Let's do that periodic preventative maintenance. Let's check in with folks. Let's not do the walk by hellos. Let's plant our feet and let's really work to make sure we see the change and we're a part of the change that we want to see around mental wellness and mental health overall. All right. So with that being said, really appreciate everyone joining the call. The entire NAMIC Virginia committee, thank you all for joining as well. It's been a great discussion. Be kind, be well, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.